Those sitting at the back, I request them to come and take the front seats. The one sitting at the back, please come and take the front seats. We'll start our program. Good afternoon, all. We have 3 invited talks today, and we will begin with a talk by Mr. Rituraj Phukan, which will be followed by a talk by Dr. Amarjyoti Kashyap. And we are very fortunate to have among us Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. He will be with with us here shortly. He is attending a different session. After the completion of that session, he will be arriving here and deliver his talk. This invited talk will be followed by paper presentation. We have 5 paper presenters. They will be presenting on 4 different topics. So the paper presentation will continue for 1 hour and the invited talk will continue for 1.5 hours. Now, I would like to request our guest of today to come and sit in the dais. I'll introduce them. The first guest is Mr. Rituraj Phukan. He is an environmental writer, a TEDx speaker, adventurer, naturalist based out of Assam. He is the founder of the Indigenous Peoples Climate Justice Forum and also serves as National Coordinator for Biodiversity for the Climate Reality Project in India. He is a member of the International Union for Conservation of Nature and sits on the board of civil society groups in the United States, in Europe and Australia. Today, he will be speaking on Assam's unequivocal right to climate justice. I request him to come to the dais and sit. We would be happy to felicitate him with Aronai and a gift from us. I request Krishna Sarkar, Jayashree Haloi, and Padmaja Roy to come to the stage. Thank you. Our second speaker today is Dr. Amarjyoti Kashyap. He is the founder president of Environ. It's an NGO, a non-governmental organization, specially involved in research and implementation of solid waste resource management. And he is the recipient of Millennium Alliance Innovation Award in 2017, 3R Excellence Award in 2018, Mahatma Gandhi International Sanitation Convention Award in 2018, Krishnakanta Hondikoi University National Fellowship in 2019, and India Sanitation Coalition Award in 2020. I request him to come and sit here in the dais. I request Jayashree Haloi to with Aronai. Mr. Amarjyoti Kashyap will be speaking on decentralized waste, solid waste management and organic farming in everyday household. Well, sir, I request you to make your presentation. Our rapporteur for this session would be Padmaja.
A very good afternoon to all. Distinguished guests on and off the stage, ladies and gentlemen, the topic for my talk today is Assam's unequivocal right to climate justice. So when it comes to climate change, Assam must rank as one of the early climate impacted regions in the entire world. In the past few years, people around the world have been alarmed by headlines of impending consequences, things that are going to happen like floods and erosion, displacement of people, conflicts. But in Assam, here we have all lived through this for many, many years. In the past, not many would associate these as manifestations of anthropogenic warming. But now we have the ability to analyze the progression of warming across the spheres, and our understanding of the climate crisis has evolved. And we know that there are different kinds of socioeconomic consequences because of the evolving impacts of warming of the earth. And my understanding personally is that any conversation about climate justice should include Assam, where the development aspirations of the people have for long been undermined by this interlinked crisis. Just last week, the Gross Domestic Climate Risk, published by the Cross Dependency Initiative, ranked 9 Indian states, including Assam, among the top 50 regions globally at risk of damage to the built environment. Built environment is the roads and the houses that we construct. And this is due to climate change. By the year 2050, Assam was ranked 28th in the entire world with a projected increase of about 330% in climate risk compared to 1990. So I was also asked to translate. So আমি যদি ভাবো যে আমাৰ ভৱিষ্যতটো কেনেকুৱা হ'ব জলবায়ু পৰিৱৰ্তনৰ কাৰণে একচুৱেলি 2050 চনলৈকে 1990 চনত যিমান আমাৰ ঘৰ বা ৰাস্তা যোনখিনি আমাৰ বিল্ড এনভাইৰনমেণ্ট আমি কনষ্ট্ৰাকশ্যন আমি মানুহে বনোৱা যিমানখিনি ঘৰ ৰাস্তা আছিলে তেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বিল্ডিং যিমান আছিলে সেইবিলাক প্ৰায় 330% বেছি ধ্বংস হোৱাৰ আশংকা আহি পৰিছে জলবায়ু পৰিৱৰ্তনৰ কাৰণে আৰু গোটেই পৃথিৱীৰ ভিতৰতে সবতকৈ বেছি এই সম্ভাৱনা হ'ব লগা যোনকেইটা জেগা আছে এই প্ৰথম 50টা ভিতৰত অসমৰ ৰেংক 28 নম্বৰ আছে। This is not the first time that this has happened. Assam has consistently appeared on the top of states listed as most affected or vulnerable to climate change in India. Last year, or rather 2 years back, Assam was listed among the 8 most vulnerable states in the Climate Vulnerability Assessment for Adaptation Planning in India using a common framework. The National Climate Vulnerability Assessment Report from the Department of Science and Technology placed some 60% of districts in Assam under the highly vulnerable category. Another recent study by the Council in Energy, Environment and Water revealed that 6 of India's 8 most flood-prone districts during the last decade are located here in Assam. আমি সকলোৱে জানো যে বানপানীৰ সমস্যা আমাৰ কাৰণে গম্ভীৰ হৈ পৰিছে আৰু ভাৰতৰ 8খন সবতকৈ বানপানীৰ দুৰ্যোগ হোৱা ডিষ্ট্ৰিক্টৰ ভিতৰত আমাৰ অসমতে 6খন আছে। My hometown Nagaon is among those as well. The others are Barpeta, Dorong, Dhemaji, Golpara, Golaghat and Sibsagar. So these are just the latest in the series of reports that justify adequate representation for the state in global conversations about climate justice. I believe climate justice is social justice. Social justice is climate justice. Both are interlinked. When we talk about social justice, we talk about the sustainability development goals, but all of us know last year when the SDG 2022 report was made public, we have succeeded in remaining positive only in goal number 13 and goal number 12. And goal number 13 is climate action. So জলবায়ু পৰিৱৰ্তনৰ ৰাস্তাত আমি we are on the right track, but SDG খিনি এটাও SDG কিন্তু আমি পজিটিভলি যে চুব পাৰিম আমি যোনবিলাক টাৰ্গেটছ আছে গোলছ খিনি আমি চুব পাৰিম এইটো most unlikely, and therefore climate change has kind of undermined the sustainability development goals as well. During the UN climate conference in Glasgow, COP26 in 2021, G77 nations, along with China, had demanded a Glasgow loss and damage facility. It did not happen. But last year at COP27, we had the Sharm el-Sheikh declaration, and now we have a loss and damage facility. And so what is this loss and damage? The Paris Agreement basically has 3 pillars. We say adaptation, mitigation, and loss and damage. To ensure that people around the world who are affected by climate change, we need funds to be allocated under all of these heads. We already had a promise of uh, about $500 billion by developed countries back in 2009 at the Copenhagen COP, and it was supposed to come to developing countries by the year 2020, but that is still pending. It has not happened. Perhaps it's delayed by COVID, but hopefully that will take care of mitigation efforts. In the field of adaptation, there have been many multilateral agreements between countries. There have been unilateral declarations, and there have been doubling of adaptation pledges at every COP. But last year, last November, was the first time that the developed world has agreed for a loss and damage fund. That essentially means providing money to areas or regions which are already been devastated by climate change. So here, if people are losing their homes and livelihoods to floods and erosion, and also to other interconnected things like biodiversity loss, livelihood loss, food security, water security, I think Assam should be ready to demand its share of the funds for loss and damage, because we have already felt the impacts of climate change for too long. Even back in 2018, Assam was found to be the most vulnerable by the climate vulnerable assessment for the Indian Himalayan region. Among all the Himalayan states, Assam was found to be the most vulnerable, and the Indian government delegation, in fact, declared at COP24 in Katowice that in India, Assam is the most vulnerable state. Now, one of the most unbelievable things is water scarcity for our region. আমি সকলোৱে জানো যে আমাৰ ইয়াতে পানীৰ অভাৱ নাই, চাৰিওফালে পানী আছে, আমাৰ বানপানী আমাৰ কাৰণে সমস্যা হয়। কিন্তু ভৱিষ্যতে এনেকুৱা এটা সময় আহিব পাৰে, আৰু কেইবাটাও চাইণ্টিফিক ষ্টাডি এইটো অলৰেডি প্ৰমাণ কৰিছে আৰু প্ৰজেকশ্যনছ আছে যে এই অঞ্চলটোত এসময়ত পানীৰ নাটনি হ'ব। The first mention of a possible water crisis was made in the AR6 by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that's the IPCC, which looked at the possibility of future or potential water scarcity in the Indian Himalayan region due to accelerated melting of glaciers. Thereafter, several more studies have actually looked in detail, including the Hindu Kush Himalaya assessment report published in January 2019, and that has projected a two-thirds loss of the eastern Himalayas glaciers. Our Brahmaputra আৰু এই গোটেই উপত্যকাৰ যিমানখিনি নদী পানী গ্লেচিয়েল মেল্টৱাটাৰৰ লগত জড়িত হৈ আছে ইষ্টাৰ্ণ হিমালয়ান ৰিজন, এইখিনিত সবতকে বেছি প্ৰভাৱ পৰিছে। So if we lose two-thirds of our glaciers, even if we limit warming, if we succeed to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius as envisioned in the Paris Agreement, but if warming continues at the current levels as it is going now, then we are projected to lose almost 95% of all the glaciers. তাৰ মানে প্ৰায় 2100 চনলৈকে যিমানখিনি গ্লেচিয়েল মেল্টৱাটাৰ আমাৰ নদীত পানী আহে, and that is about 30% meltwater ব্ৰহ্মপুত্ৰ আৰু বেলেগ নদীত আমাৰ গ্লেচিয়েল মেল্টৱাটাৰ আহে, সেইখিনি কমি যাব। And combine that with precipitation change and the rainfall decrease, which has also been very documented, including one study I think published last week, which said there has been a 20% decrease in rainfall between 1998 and 2018. We are looking at a potential climate crisis which will manifest itself in water scarcity for our region. পানীৰ সংকট, পানীৰ নাটনি এসময়ত ইয়াতে হোৱাটো আমাৰ কাৰণে এতিয়া এটা ভয়াৱহ এটা ভৱিষ্যত হৈ পৰিছে। Another study which looked at which did a very data-driven analysis of where the future water wars are likely to take place. আমি সবে শুনি আহো যে থার্ড দ্বিতীয় বিশ্বযুদ্ধ যদি হয় পানির কারণে হ'ব থার্ড world war will be over water. So some groups actually studied which are the possible reason where a water war can take place in the future. And they named the Brahmaputra Valley as one of the likely places as well. And this was a data-driven analysis published back in 2017. Now, there are other related issues which nobody talks about, and I think one of the issues that I want to talk about today is human-wildlife conflicts. Especially human-elephant conflicts has been devastating our state for a very long time, and it has been increasing. In fact, the number of casualties in terms of humans as well as wild elephants is the highest in the entire world among, of course, all the elephant-range countries. Now, I worked with to facilitate human-elephant coexistence for a very long time in the Karbi foothills. So, Karbi Anglomar, ওচৰত নগাঁও কাৰ্বি আংলঙৰ বৰ্ডাৰত আমি জাষ্ট হিউমেন এলিফেণ্ট কনফ্লিক্টৰ মিটিগেশ্যনৰ কাম কৰি আছিলোঁ যেতিয়া এজন তাৰে গাঁৱৰ বাসিন্দাই আমাক আহি পেলাই কৈছিলে যে আপোনালোকে ইয়াতে এইবিলাক চেষ্টা কৰি আছে কিন্তু ওপৰত যোনটো হৈছে সেইটো আপোনালোকে দেখাই নাই তেওঁৰ প্ৰথমতে মই গৈ দেখিলো আৰু সঁচাই দেখিলো যে তাতে যোনবিলাক এসময়ত ঘাঁহনি আছিলে এই ঘাঁহনিবিলাক এতিয়া কিন্তু যোনবিলাক কিছুমান অৱতীৰ্ণ শ্ৰাবছ আৰু এইবিলাক লাজুকী বনেৰে ঢাক খাই গৈছে আৰু ইভেন বাঁহ গছবিলাকো লতাই কাই থকা লতাবিলাকে ঘেৰাও কৰি ধৰিছে যোনবিলাক কোনো জীৱ জন্তু পশু পক্ষীয়ে খাব নোৱাৰে so this vegetation change is something that is we have not even considered. A few years back, a study by WWF and other agencies in Nepal actually looked at how the grasslands in Nepal are slowly shifting southwards and the possibility that rhinos in Nepal will disappear as they follow the grass line and migrate into Assam. So that set me thinking, and I could understand what the villager was telling me was that there is climate change, there is vegetation change already happening here. We just do not realize. We know that erosion also affects the alluvial floodplains of all the protected areas that lie in the Brahmaputra Valley, including Kaziranga. And with the amount of grass available, which by the way is a staple food not only for elephants but all the other herbivores like rhinos and deer and all of them, and it makes them migrate out from the protected areas and also makes them more vulnerable to poaching as well as human-wildlife conflict. So this is one thing that is really not studied. Now, India has about 705 groups identified as indigenous people, right? Which is the largest population outside of the, in a particular country outside of the African continent. But still, we do not have representatives of our indigenous groups talking about the impacts on their livelihoods and lives in global climate change negotiations or forums. I go to these COPs, and I see representations from all over the world, from South America, from Mesoamerica, from Indonesia, from Africa, everybody dressed in their beautiful traditional dresses and talking about the need for climate justice. And they're so vocal, and rightfully so, because all the indigenous people of the world, including all of us, and remember the United Nations classification of indigenous people is IPLC, Indigenous People and Local Communities. That is one constituency. And as a whole, I think IPLCs have contributed the least to the emission of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, suffer the worst consequences, and are worst placed to do anything about it. But at the same time, are also best placed to address both the climate and the biodiversity crisis because indigenous people manage about 80% of the remaining natural places on Earth. So, getting to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, or reaching the targets laid down in the Paris Agreement and the Global Framework for Biodiversity, which was signed last year in Montreal, they all speak about integrating indigenous traditional way of life into community-led efforts and a convergence of all the thoughts and ideas to address not only the biodiversity uh, and the climate change crisis, but also the interconnected pollution crisis. At COP26, for the first time in the history of UNFCCC, 28 indigenous people were nominated from each of the UN indigenous socio-cultural regions to engage directly as knowledge holders and share experiences as indigenous experts with government. Nowhere else in the world has any country actually included indigenous knowledge as part of the efforts to address this crisis, except for the country of Peru. We need a change in thought, and the way forward is to include indigenous knowledge systems in community-led efforts towards solving all the planetary crises. The people of Northeast India are proudly connected to the natural world, and our native communities have been practicing sustainability for thousands of years, even before the word sustainability was coined. All the different tribes have different unique survival strategies that enable us to adapt to the changing vagaries of nature, and these include sustainable management of resources, diversification of livelihoods, strengthening of social support systems, traditional knowledge, story sharing, uh, intergenerational knowledge that is passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, which are all part of the folklores. All this is part of the indigenous knowledge systems and heritage. Now, during the 2 weeks of the UNFC negotiations, we see every year that the representatives of India are there, and we have last year we had a very good stall there. We had a lot of meetings. Uh, I'm going to end with a very brief anecdote on how does the fight for climate justice look like. There were these catastrophic floods in Pakistan just towards the end of September, October. Now, if you look at what happened at COP, everybody who were representing Pakistan, including their foreign minister, were able to very effectively communicate the uh, need for climate justice and need for loss and damage funds. And she famously said that loss and damage funds is our right. It's not a charity, right? But when I came back and looked at the figures, I found out that somehow during the floods, if you look at the entire year, more people died in India, more people were displaced in India than they were in Pakistan. More people have died every year in Assam, more people have been displaced every year here. More people have died because of human wildlife conflicts in this region than the rest of the country. Don't we all need to stand up and fight for climate justice individually, as a community, and as Indians or as a part of the Northeast together? Thank you very much for having me here, and congratulations for organizing this very important knowledge festival. Thank you.
Thank you for your insightful talk. Um, Now, if you have any questions, if you want to discuss any of the issues that has been mentioned by Mr. Pukan, you are most welcome. If you want to add anything, if you have any questions, please feel free. We'll have a 10 minutes discussion round, and then we can move on to the next session. You have any? Okay, yeah. We have with us Professor Peter Newell. He is from the University of Sussex, and he's also our keynote speaker on 1st of March. He has a question.
So firstly, thank you very much for a fascinating talk. I just wanted to ask what scope there is for more climate action and collaboration and solidarity between different Indigenous groups, because I know there's the Indigenous Environment Network, many other people that we've been discussing, working on these issues. So what are the prospects for maybe a joint position or a manifesto or a declaration, some more joint activities transnationally between different Indigenous groups that are being affected by climate change in the ways you would describe it?
Thank you. That's a great question. We already do have a lot of indigenous collaboration, a lot of groups uh, in the world where indigenous people representing different communities are there. But since we have about 30,000 identified indigenous groups and local communities around the world, we do not have one basic effective communicating agency, and that is, I think, what is lacking. But more specifically, because we have 705 unrepresented indigenous people living in India, we have about 100 or more of indigenous groups in the Northeast living in the mountains and valleys who have no voice in this UN global negotiations. I think as a group, uh, as all the social groups at educational levels, at colleges, universities, we all need to start a conversation about climate justice and make ourselves heard, become part of the global, processes. And this days, it has become much easier because we have social media. We can always use the internet to communicate with the indigenous environmental network or the guardians of the forest. And there are so many groups we can be part of. But it's very important to go back to the roots and understand what we are missing out on, what our ancestors used to do, how they used to live off the land, what is the traditional knowledge we may have lost out in the last few years, what is missing, what is the impact on our health. Uh, Now, I must share another, because you asked this great question, must share another anecdote. Uh, During COVID 19, when the process of vaccination started, my great friend Jada Payang, the forest man of India, will be here on one of the days for another session. He called me up one day and uh, was very reluctant to take the vaccine, the COVID 19 vaccine. And so were everybody in his family and then his entire village. And I found out they had never been vaccinated before, right? So they did not know if it is going to be safe for them to take that vaccine. And then we went to the administration. There was a medical board call, and then they had a kind of global deliberation on if they could go ahead as somebody who has never been vaccinated. And finally, after about 1.5 months, 2 months, they were allowed to take they went ahead and took the vaccine. Of course, there was no side effect, very, bare fever and all that. But the question that I found myself asking was, what gave them the immunity? If they had never been vaccinated before, what gives them the good health, the immunity? I know they have never, I never see Mr. Zadapan being sick. I never see him. I have been with him for like at least so many years, 12, 15 years. But, if we get sick, we'll go to the forest, we'll have some roots and fruits, and it'll be fine within a couple of days. So that is our heritage. That is under threat. We need to understand that before we go out and fight for the climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Do you have any more questions coming from the audience? Yeah, please. Deepak. Is Dr. Deepak Basumatari from Pokrajal Golf College. He has a question for Mr. Pukal.
Thank you for the time. And my question is, in the last couple of years, so we see that in Northeast, in Assam, and also in Bodoland, newer economic activities, agricultural practices like planting rubber, and in recent years, palm oil cultivation is being promoted as a very profitable and healthy what's called economic activity. But my question is, this rubber plants, palm is not something that is native to this place. It is going to be something harmful if we cultivate it in a very large economic way. Now, my question is, how do we, the indigenous communities, align our economic interests along with the interests of the, say, climate? How do we? Thank you.
That's a great question again, and thank you for bringing up palm oil. I was part of the movement, trying to oppose that. You have rightly said we do not need non-native monoculture to invade our land and destroy the last remaining natural heritage. Uh, what is there in our forest is food and medicine, not only for us, it's for the world. The diseases, the medicine for the diseases not yet, you know, with with the medicines that we need are here in this forest. But we must recognize this natural heritage uh, can be aligned to economic development. There are, of course, tourism is a great way, and I think understanding that this natural heritage is something that is non-negotiable, and then ensuring that the pockets of biodiversity that still remains can be part of a economic model which can be on a local level very profitable. It has been done in other places as well. I remember going to Nagaland like 20, 30 years back when hunting was rampant, but now we see that bird watching, because it's become so profitable, a host of homestays have come up around Konoma, uh, Benru, and these are the bird watching hotspots. Similarly, if you go to the areas inhabited by the Bugun and the Shedokwan in Arunachal Pradesh, they're having immense profits from hosting birders from around the world. And after the birders come people who come looking for, butterflies and insects and reptiles and medicinal plants and researchers. So nature is the greatest asset we have. And I think each community, if they protect what is around them, it is not only for the economic benefits, but also their health and well-being. The biodiversity is not only, to be there to be extracted, but it has to be preserved to ensure that we have healthy lives and our future generations enjoy the well-being, the salubrious environments of this region as much as we did. I hope that answered your question a little bit, but I know it's not a direct because we're still struggling to find that balance. But definitely, yes, no to palm oil. Uh, we know about that village near Dampa Tiger Reserve where the villagers lost their water source and actually went ahead and uprooted the palm oil and let the forest regenerate. We know Sri Lanka has moved away from palm oil. We do not want our golden langur or the uh, or the right or the leopard, for example, to go the way of the orangutan in Indonesia, which the which predicament, which struggle for surviving extinction, coincides with the growth of palm oil cultivation. So yeah, hope that answered your question.
We will have two more questions, and that will be final. One of the questions will be asked by me, and one of our presenters, uh, Dr. Pallavi Devi, has a question. Please come here and ask your question. Dr. Pallavi Devi is assistant professor from Guwahati University Department, PG Department of Law.
Good afternoon, sir. When we talk of, protecting the environment as an individual, as a citizen, it is much easier to protect the environment because that is a non-interference or non-intervention with the environment. But some preserving the environment is a little bit, bigger because we cannot preserve our environment as an individual or as a citizen. So how do you look into it? Thank you, sir.
Well, that's a really tough question. We all try to find our place on the planet. Similarly, I think a similar question is what should I eat? What should I dress? What should I buy? You know, if we make these conscious decisions, I think it's enough. I mean, each person can do only so much, but not to waste the resources of the planet is very, very important. The focus of the Indian government, the mission life launched by our Prime Minister, Living for Environment, now actually looks to mobilize billions of individual actions, as in his own words. And now that is what the whole world needs to do because everything adds up. So do whatever you can, and I'm not saying that you should do that, you should wear that, you should buy that, you should eat that. I think it's important for everybody to find his own area where he can contribute. It could be conservation, it could be making conscious lifestyle changes, it could be making sacrifices or working very actively to protect the environment, it could be planting trees. I think each individual will make their own choice about how to contribute to the safer environment. Thank you.
Well, that's too many questions for Mr. Kashyap. But I have one thing to ask. Like, as we grew up, we have seen so many changes. People from our generation who were born in 70s, we have seen many of the things disappearing in front of us. As kids, we had seen fireflies, which are almost gone now. We have seen dragonflies, which are almost gone now in most of the parts where we live today. And in newspapers, we often used to see, Northeast is always treated with state motherly attitude. Resources are always being extracted from the Northeast India, and in return, there had been no development, and which had been one of the causes of the conflict in Northeast India. Now, when we talk about the causes of the conflict, development is one of the issues. And I'm from literature department, and I teach a course on environment and literature. So I refer to one of the novels, Legend of Pansam by Mamang Dai, who is from Arunachal Pradesh. She was an IS officer, and she gave up her job, and she became a full-time social activist, and she is also a novelist, a writer. Now she writes, she depicts certain things in her novels, that how the rivers are getting polluted, how the forests are getting destroyed, how everything is filled with plastic. When we talk about development, how can we do away without using plastic? It becomes a very important and significant part in our life because it's cheap, it's cost effective. But how do we use them in our life? How do we recycle them? We have not thought about that. So with these developmental issues, and also, we talk about climate justice. How do we reconcile both these things? So I would like to know from Mr. Kukan what he has to say about this. Thank you.
It is not always development versus the environment. I think with the advent of modern technology, we have so many choices, and we have the opportunity to leapfrog certain uh, bad areas and adopt directly more friendly, more sustainable ways of living. Once again, I like to go back to a story of my kind of childhood. 20 years back, our generation will remember if you went to a village in Assam, they used to be very neat and clean, right? There used to be a bakery in every village, and every evening, a man on a cycle would go from house to house delivering biscuits and cakes. Where are they now? We we chose to buy what was advertised on the TV, and we thought that what is locally produced is not good, so we have to buy it from a multinational, creating tons of single-use plastics. And now look at our villages. There are mountains of litter everywhere, in the rivers, in the wells, in the fields, everywhere, right? So we made the wrong development choices. It doesn't mean that we cannot undo that. We also lost so many employment opportunities, so many local industries that were there have disappeared. It's very easy to go back 2 decades. It's very easy to rethink development. So I think it's just a matter of making the right decisions.
Thank you for your response. I think we always need to make the right choice in our life. That would make all the difference. And that should remind most of our participants here are from the English department. The road not taken would always help us, choosing the right path. Now we'll have our next speaker, Mr. Dr. Amarjit Kashyap. I request him to come and deliver his talk. If you can wait just 2 more minutes, I'll ensure that you have this screen ready.
Hello, hello, sir. Hello. Hello.
I request the participants to take their seats and not go outside the tent.
You have a pen drive? Pen drive? Oh, yes. What do you call it? USB. USB, yeah, you have, yeah, you can use it here. Problem দিয়েছে আরম্ভ হয়েছিল না ভালো আরম্ভ একটা টক হল কিন্তু এইটো কাম নকৰাকে এনে মানে পিপিটি নিদিয়াকে এনে ডাইৰেক্ট গ্ৰেড কৰিছে কিন্তু একেটা পিপিটি নহ'লে নচলিব একেটা পিপিটি হ'ব
এটা কি প্ৰব্লেম হৈছিল আমাৰ বৰ্তমান
পিপিটিটো এইটো চাহনে হয়
এইটো চিষ্টেমটো বেয়া হৈছে এইটো
অকল সিহঁতে বুলি
কলেজবিলাকে হাংগামা লগাই
এনেকুৱা
জেগা নাই বস্তু চবও লাগে
আমাৰ LCD কেইটা আমি
অভাৰ হোৱা নাই মানুহ অভাৰ হোৱা নাই সেই অনুপাতে কৰা নাই তাকেইতো রোগের বড় আরে
He's trying to repair that fellow.
Since it is taking some time to get this screen, get working, it's very unfortunate. What we can do is we can continue with the paper presentation, and Dr. Kashyap, he actually wants to show us some slides which has his innovative works, and without a slide, without a PPT, it will not be possible to show that. So we will wait for some more time. And now we will proceed with the paper presentation. The session will be chaired by Dr. Amarjyoti Kashyap, and we have 4 paper presenters. Um, we have four papers and there are 5 presenters. I'll read out the names and I request them to come and take the seats on the dais. We have a paper by Henricus Joko Yulianto. He is from State University of Semarang. Dr. Yulianto will be presenting his paper on a call for climate justice in contemporary Indonesian and Indian poems. He has come all the way from Indonesia to present his paper. I request him to come on the dais and take his seat. Our next paper presenter is Dr. Pallavi Devi. She is an assistant professor in the PG Department of Law, Guwahati University. She will be speaking on ecological disaster, taking cognizance of Joshimath calamity and the human development. I request her to come to the dais. The third paper will be presented by Barnali Devi and Ananya Kashyap. It's a joint paper. They will be speaking on climate justice in the novel Staying Alive, a study of Vandana Shiva's environmental discourse. And the last paper will be presented by Dr. Ringshar Basumatari, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Bodoland University. He will be speaking on the extent of dependence on non-timber forest produce by the dwellers of forest villages of Assam. I request Ringshar Basumatari to come to the dais and take his seat. Yeah, please. Each presenter will get 20 minutes to present and we will have 10 minutes for discussion. After the end of each paper, there may be questions and then we will move to the next presenter. Now I hand over the session to our chairperson, Dr. Amarjyoti Kashyap.
Very good afternoon to everybody. So let us start the session, Climate Justice and Action. So though we are little bit delayed, but up for the best, better late than never. So now the program shall be continued. The first paper will be presented by Henricus Joko Wilanto, State University of Semarang, Central Java, Indonesia. So his paper is a call for climate justice in contemporary Indonesian and Indian poets, envisioning climate resilience in the post-human era. So I request you to please present your paper. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Henricus from State University of Semarang. I'm very happy to be able to join this first Budoland International Knowledge Festival. Yeah. So I'm also kind of honored to be the first speaker of presenting this afternoon. All right, but despite the inconvenience of the unavailable PPT to project my PPT, so you can see, I will just read my PPT from my laptop. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me start the introduction. Global warming and climate change are prevalent phenomena in this present post-human era. These have emerged along with humans' industrial activities that have detrimental impacts on the Earth climate in particular and the natural environment in general. Anthropogenic activities such as use of fossil fuels, deforestation, agriculture are some practices that produce carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere that further contribute to global warming. Changing weather and climate have been precarious environmental phenomena in various countries around the world. For instance, in Buffalo, New York, there was a tremendous snow and very harsh snowstorm in December 2022. The climatic phenomenon that has never occurred before in the city. In Central Java, Indonesia, the place where I'm living, where I'm from, there is erratic rainfall that heavy rainfall might have caused runoffs and even flood to some regions. Climate is a very pivotal aspect in the natural world. It is not a lifeless entity of the atmosphere. In fact, climate is an atmospheric condition that helps to form landscape, plants, animals, and certainly humans. Furthermore, geologically, climate helps to shape mountains, to mold the soil, to modulate the nature of the rivers, and to forge floodplains and deltas. Yet, since humans have massively done various activities that wreak havoc on the atmosphere and the natural environment, these practices have changed the behavior of the weather throughout the ages. This phenomenon is known as climate change. In fact, natural climate changes according to its time scales from year to year, month to month. Yet, the anthropogenic massive activities have disrupted the natural pattern of the climate and resulted in global warming and other related conditions. Okay, let me skip with my focus on the. So let me read the background of climate justice. So, based on my reading on climate justice, actually this is a relatively new field, yeah, since Dr. Tibat Yoti asked me to write about climate justice. So, willy-nilly, I had to search books on climate justice, and I think this very great, great subject. They aim to protect the global climate from degradation and destruction by defending and protecting the rights of the climate and the earth in general with what they call climate justice or environmental ethics. This justice and ethics deals with one's quote, moral duty to protect the climate, end quote, from the havoc of climate change due to human activities. Several members of the advocates, for instance, have joined the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. The panel identified that the world population with quote, high exposure, high sensitivity, and or low adaptive capacity, end quote, tend to experience the severe impacts on climate precarity, including malnutrition and consequent disorders. So now, what is the relevance between climate justice and literature? Especially in this paper, I'm doing analysis of poetry. Climate studies, in fact, is also a part of the humanities. Human and non-human creatures exist in the natural world by inhaling air from the Earth climate. Since the climate change issue emerged as a global phenomenon and has detrimental impacts, the humanities such as literature and philosophy are eligible. Feldsteiner, an American professor of English and environmental humanist, in his book, said that poetry, quote, can save the world with its ecological vision that, quote, shapes one's changing consciousness and of the world around, end quote. By this vision, poetry cares about environmental issues, including both soil and aquifers, agribusiness, coral reefs, to poison and dynamite fishing, seabirds to oil spills, pollinating bees to pesticides and development, animal and plant species to plunder, to corporate plus consumerist greed, end quote. Another concern about climate justice also came from a group of contemporary Western poets. They wrote poems that criticize anthropogenic practices in over-consuming fossil fuels and other toxic particles in the past history and in the present. One of these poets, Stephen Collis, is a Canadian poet, wrote his poem Take Oil and Hum. It discusses how oil has permeated through humans' daily life and brings forth catastrophe for human and non-human creatures. So this brief paper discusses three contemporary poems, two from Indonesian poets, Afrizal Malna and Aziz Mana, and one poem by Indian poet Sridhara Swami. The discussion aims to identify how their poems polemicize ecological issues, especially about climate change, and to explain how their eco-vision substantiates a call for climate justice in this present post-human and digital technology era. So what I mean by climatic poetics is that, so the first topic that I discuss is climatic poetics as ecological praxis. So what I mean by climatic poetics is that the three poems polemicize overconsumption of material things such as petrol and cement. This overconsumption certainly produces increasing emissions of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases that further warms the atmosphere. For instance, the following two poems entitled Petrol Cupboard by Afrizal Malna and Estuary by Aziz Mana discuss humans' petroculture. So I got this term petroculture from American critic Stephanie Lee Miniger, and overconsumption of fossil fuels, especially oil in their daily activities. So let me read the poem by Mana entitled Petrol Cupboard. So this poem was originally written in Indonesian, but has been translated by John Fuller as American writer. I'm submerged in petrol. My whole body is full of it. Petrol reminds my mother of the gestures of government officials when they talk. Petrol stains their fingers. If this official washed their hands after eating, I can still smell it. You may ask, how can I be swimming in fingers reeking of petrol? Well, I'm a taxi driver. I have taken many people to their destinations, but I have arrived at mine. Every day I swallow my pay, as if I'm sniffing petrol. I work 12 hours a day, but I keep swallowing my pay. A wheel and spark plug grow on my back. Petrol follows me to bed, asking, where is the fire? I say it is following your journey from Sorong to New York. They take the same taxi with the same driver, just like you. So that's a poem written like in a prose form, and the poet uses like small lowercase letters instead uppercase letters. Yeah. So I think there might be kind of form of resistance or form of criticism. I think. The poem above clearly shows how humans tend to overconsume petrol through the line "I'm submerged in petrol, and my whole body is full of it." Petrol is also a material that becomes a political polemic. Success in the next line, quote, "Petrol reminds my mother of the gestures of government officials when they talk," end quote. The next line, "Petrol stains fingers, and if this official washed their hands after eating, I can still smell it." Emphasize how powerful petrol is as an earth mineral and as a material agent with high economic value. This suggests that petrol has been a government's economic issue as it becomes a major energy source in any country in the world. The fact that most world countries still rely on fossil fuels, including oil, coal, and natural gas, as the major energy source shows their orientation to petroculture. The next line, quote, "You may ask, how can I be swimming in fingers dripping of petrol?" End quote. Again, accentuates the powerful nature of petrol as the subterranean mineral. At the same time, the poet's narration of the pungent odor of petrol shows an interdependent relation between humans and fossil fuels. The former needs the latter as the only reliable energy source. The overwhelming and disturbing odor of the petrol metaphorically reveals the toxic qualities of the physical mineral that can toxify the atmosphere and other physical landscapes through the emissions of its carbon dioxide and the methane gases. Petrol and its odor have permeated through the air and physically toxified human and non-human bodies. This phenomenon exemplifies an ecological catastrophe that explains, so I quote from Stacy Alamo term, transcorporeality of petrol as a source of energy as well as a toxic agent. The next line that narrates the poet's interaction is also the term from Stacy Alamo. With the petrol success in the telegraphic lines, every day I swallow my pay, as if I am sniffing petrol. I work 12 hours a day, but I keep swallowing my pay. A wheel and spark plug grow on my back. Petrol follows me to bed. Further portray the transcorporeality of human's body, which means that the body is vulnerable to the substances from outside, including social and economic forces. End quote. So this next point by Aziz Mana is also talks about oil. The title is Estuary. More destructive than fire, oil swallows our home, as thickens into black stains, enlarging and expanding. An estuary is silenced in a veil of supreme darkness. Above the black swarm, a wind dances with the smoke. Buses grow wild on the dike, covering our tracks. The chest heaves with stones, eyes sharp as knives. Emptiness imprisons our hearts. Our home is submerged. The road is such a difficult one. We can walk no more. Our legs, stunts. We are but waste and surrender to the wave of waste. Life provides an armored shell, makes us suckers and spewers, turns us into eternal pricks, immersing itself to find a new house in emptiness. We grow again, floating, twisting the light of swimmer worms. We breathe in a long sleep. Crustaceans create a path, warding us with their light. So the poem above by Marna similarly portrays humans' interconnection with petrol as the transcorporeal and relatively disturbing material. The first to third lines have despondently illustrated the poet's skepticism of the oil and its destructive power over humans and their physical environment. All the following lines similarly articulate the poet's distrustful feeling of the hazardous oil to humans' life. Humans do not feel happy with the oil, but discouraged with its destructive power, such as in the lines, but emptiness imprisons our hearts. Our hope is submerged. The road is such a difficult one. We are but weeds, and surrender to the weight of weeds. End quote. The use of lowercase letters also in Mana also uses lowercase letters, just like Afisal Mana. So I call this like telegraphic poetics, telegraphic lines of single words and phrases represents the poet's anxiety about and distrust of the disheartening oil. And next, the third poem by contemporary Indian poet Sridhar Swami. She talks about cement. The title is Cement Lungs. The city exhales dust. Here we will clear the indistinct trees, uproot the wormy roots, and bird blue plastic. Pack the gasping soil, soothe its heaving anxieties. With cool gray cement, square and water filled, and raise a monument, smooth, soaring tree. We have had enough of moral ambiguities and disquieting relativism. We want to make a city, a forest of topless trees, naked before the high wind, and finally breathing. So in this Swami's poem, I consider this poem also illustrates the poet's concern about human overconsumption of cement in his urban buildings. Similar to oil, cement also a material agent that contributes to the emergence of global warming. It is a material that came from cars as the earth mineral. Emissions of carbon dioxide mostly come from fossil fuels burning, including coal, oil, and natural gas, and cement making. The first stanza succinctly depicts the arid scene of the city because of the uprooting of trees and of replacing them with concrete buildings. It displays human strength in urban cities to congest the areas with cemented buildings. The crowded cemented infrastructures disrupt the ecological resilience of the urban landscapes. The more increasing number of cemented buildings does not only emit more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, this also reduces the soil's capacity to breathe and grow into a robust land. The more amount of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases emitted by the crowded cemented high-rise buildings certainly contributes to exacerbate global warming. As climate justice has posited that any material activity conducted excessively in one country will cause a climatic catastrophe experienced by another country, the more building of cemented infrastructures in one country will accordingly have crucial impacts on the global planet. All right, let me continue with the second topic, which is ecological views as a call for climate justice. The three poems above polemicize the issues of fossil fuels as the agent that contributes to global warming and climate change. Oil and cement are two materials that emit carbon dioxide and methane in high amount. Furthermore, this carbon dioxide, methane, and other related greenhouse gases contribute to the global warming phenomenon. The poet's skeptical ways in portraying the subject on fossil fuels indicate the urgency to defend the climate and the natural environment from the hazards of the oil and cement. Mana's ecological abuse of the hazards of fossil fuels, especially oil, certainly evokes one's awareness of defending the rights of climate and the natural environment from humans' exploitation and over extraction of the earth minerals as the source of energy. Swami's climatic poetics drew cement as the pollen an issue, similarly evokes the same concern about the future of the earth and its biodiversity. So let me end my paper with conclusion. Climate justice serves an agency to strive for a sustainable and resilient planet. It simultaneously substantiates one state of mind or conscience to defend for the rights and justice of global climate in particular and the earth in general. This agency involves various aspects: ecological, economic, cultural, political, as well as moral wisdom. One important thing about the moral dimension of climate justice is that everybody needs to discern the ways how global warming and climate change actually work and have impacts on life and the natural environment in a global scale. Since what one does towards the natural environment in his or her country might have significant impacts on the climate and the natural environment of another individual's country. It is imperative that anyone should be wise in consuming material things in order not to produce much ecological footprint that exacerbates global warming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enrique Joko, for your excellent presentation. So, next presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Rinsar Basumatari, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Bodoland University, Kokrajhar, and his presentation is extent of dependence on non-timber forest product by the dwellers of forest village of Assam. So, please come, Mr. Basumatari. Good evening to all of you. So, this session, chairpersons, and my colleagues, and students, and dignitaries, and speakers from the different parts of India and from abroad. So, the topic of this topic for this semester, my topic is that extent of dependence on non-timber forest product by the dwellers of forest villages of Assam, India. So, so non-timber forest product are playing an important role in sustaining the livelihood of marginal sections of the community living in and around the forest. The annual report of the Center for International Forestry Research found that income from forest contributes for average more than 1/5 of total household earning for the people living near forests. Communities that live within forests rely most directly on forest biodiversity for their and livelihood, using products derived from the forest resources for food, fodder, shelter, energy, medicine, and income generation. The tribal people of the northeastern part of India are strongly attached to the forest resources for their custom, tradition, migration. They have direct and indirect dependency on forests and forest resources for their daily requirements of fodder, fire, medicine, and energy, etc. However, excessive use and extraction of natural resources lead to the multiple effect on the natural ecosystem. This influence of the plains and species, degrade forest ecosystem, loss of habitation, and loss of biodiversity. Further, the anthropogenic disturbance in forests not only affect the species flora and fauna, but also affect the airsoil dependence on the forest resources by tribal and marginal sections of the community. So, the objective of my study is that to find out the extent of dependence on non-timber forest product by the forest dwellers of Kottayam district. And second objective is to find to know that climate justice in action taken in the study area. So, the study area, that is Kottayam, this district has 3 forest divisions, namely Kusugan, Portugal, and Kambojara, and total 145 officially recognized forest villages in the district. And the communities residing in this area is the Bodos, Adivasis, that is Santali and Brown also. Nepali and Rajvansis communities are residing in forest villages. Since 1999 to 2015, the
522 square kilometers of forest cover has lost in the district between Crossland. That is report given by report from the Indian State Forest for 2015. So material method, that is both the primary and secondary data has been collected for this study. And here I have selected 18 forest villages out of 145 forest villages. This is simple. And the total household is 365. So benefit of from non-timber forest product, particularly the some selected items I have highlighted here. That firewood, that's honey, wild leaves, medicine, and fodder that is grazing from the forest. So that is the main benefit we obtain from this forest. And data I could have shown here, but so now data I can show that only the firewood I will read out the value of the firewood on an average. 4,200 on an average they will obtain from the firewood, collection from the firewood. From the honey, 789, wild leaf 613, medicine 565, and then the benefit from grazing, that is fodder, that is 16,450. So that is the overall the dependency on this particular forest resources, not human forest resources in this area. So the again use of energy, that use of energy by the household is that 68% of the energy that is coming from the fire. So basically the most of the people most of the household of this area is still dependent on the or rely on the fire. So the fire is the main energy source for cooking and etc. Everything. So that's used by the household of this area. As per my study, and then only the 2% is used for the LPG in the forest. And remaining like the kerosene and other powder can normally used in this area, particularly in the forest area, forest area. So this shows that the forest dependent communities still thriving at the traditional forest dwellers of the district are benefiting from the use of forest resources. The firewood is the primary source of energy. However, this is or sustainable use of the forest resources by the household of forest dwellers has been disrupted in recent years due to the illegal enforcement and occupation of the forest land, diversion of the forest land for non-forest activities, and illegally cutting of the trees in the district. So this is happening in the district. Because of this climate change that has been taken place in the study. Yes, particular dimension of the so now, but the climate justice action has been taken because of this. I just point out only 2 points here. So land and forest-based climate action. What the land and forest-based climate action has been taken so far in the district. So to protect and preserve the forest, reserve forests of the district from illegal enclosures, illegal felling of the trees, violate ecological balances, biodiversity, and maintain continuous free flow of the wild animals with Bhutan and West Bengal. The Department of Forest and Environment, Government of Assam, has declared the Kusidon Riku Reserve Forest as Raimona National Park on 5th June of 2021. So that is the Assam Gazette notification of 27 May of June of 2021. So this Raimuna National Park is located along with the Himalayan foothill and together with Teksu to Wildlife Sanctuary Bhutan and the Buxa Tiger Reserve of the West Bengal forms a very large transboundary conservation landscape of more than 2,400 square kilometers. It is transboundary. So, and again, another point is that democratic land and forest governance for the climate justice. So, democratic land. So, to minimize the climate change, ensuring participatory forest management and conservation by the tribals and other forest dwellers, Government of India passed an scheduled tribe and other forest dwellers recognition of forest right, Act of 2006, which is also popularly known as the Forest Right Act of 2006. This act recognized the rights of the forest dwelling tribal communities and other traditional forest builders due to forest resources. In Kuppam district, the process of dispersing land right through the scheduled tribe and the traditional forest builders is initiated among the 145 recognized forest species. So these are the main two points that I have highlighted for the climate change, how the climate change has been can be mitigated or minimized in Kuppam district. Mainly that is recognition of the national that is the Raimana National Park, that is in 2021. And another one is the recognition of the forest rights to the people of the forest builders of 145 forest villages. The process is going on, but still that is not so that clear. Still, most of the villages still they are waiting for the forest right. That is the land right. So still they are not getting it itself. So. Forestation also, the social forestry also undertaken for the forestation in Kuppam district. And then the 145 forest villages we have recognized by the state government. That is begin before from the 1980s. So this was established in 1980s, before 1980s. But after 1980s also, there are lots of the forest villages that has been that has been considered as a enclosure in the Department of Forest. So enclosure, that means those who are occupying the land of the forest without the permission of the department. So that is considered as an enclosure. So after 1980s, there the people those who are residing in the forest area and building the house in the forest area, they are regarded as an enclosure. Now the point is that after recognition of this forest building act, that right have already been given that the tribal and other communities, that is tribal people, those who are residing in a particular area, the forest area, they are building a house or villages, etc., they can entitled to have a forest right. Okay. So that is the dilemma we have in this Coconut district. So one is that we are recognizing the forest villages. 145 forest villages is already recognized by the officially the government of India. So 1980s, before the 1980s, it was established. But after 1980s, because the permanent forest act, that is 1980s, permanent consumption of forest act of 1980s. After that, we were residing in the forest area. They have been termed as illegal. Now, point is that after 20s also, 1980s also, say 1990s, 2020s, 10 also, most of the enclosure have been enclosed in the forest area. So if that is the whatever the terms given in the forest building act in 2006, that is the 2006. According to that, the 5 years those who are residing as the tribal community residing in that particular area, they have been entitled to each or get the forest land. That is the problem. Is problem arising in the so if the forest right has been given to those closer in the core area of the forest, then most of the that biodiversity will be wiped out, and most of the the area of the core area of the forest will be or will be degraded. As a result of that, there will be more crisis of the environment as well as the climate. That is the main point here I have highlighted. And conclusion, in sum, this study found that there is symbiotic relationship between tribe and other traditional forest builders with the forest. Forest builders has been disrupted in recent years due to the illegal encroachment and appropriation of the forest land, diversion of forest land for the non-forest activities, and illegally cutting of the trees in the district. Because of this, climate change has been taking place in the study. To mitigate the climate change, government of Assam declared that's already I have mentioned. Rifu Reserve Forest of the Municipal Fortification and the process of implementation of the Forest Right Act 2006 has initiated in the district. To maintain sustainable forests and biodiversity, enforcement in forest area must be controlled. And with proper rehabilitation package for the enclosure, plantation and by providing quality education and awareness around the forest dwelling communities in that district, will enhance the protection of the forest in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kusumatari, for your very important presentation. So next, I would like to invite Dr. Pallavi Devi, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Law, Guwahati University. Our presentation will be ecological disaster, taking cognizance of the Josimot calamity and the human development. So I request Dr. Pallavi Devi to give her presentation.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Respected, at the outset, I thank the coordinator for choosing my paper and to be a part of this mega event, knowledge event. Respected chairperson, founder of the Environment NGO, faculty members of Boroland University and other university, research scholars, and my dear students. The title of my paper is Ecological Disaster, Taking Cognizance of Zosimat Calamity and the Human Development. So it has taken a Zosimat scale calamity to grab the attention of the people and the government that the next Himalayan flood could create a havoc. This paper would therefore attempt to re-emphasize that the narrow utilitarian theory as propounded by jurist Jeremy Bentham that the greatest welfare to the greatest number of people has proved erroneous after the Josimat scale. Additionally, this paper would reaffirm the importance of precautionary principle, the importance of polluter pay principle as an important facet of sustainable development goals, and that the measure by the state government and the state authorities must be able to anticipate, prevent, and attack the cause of environmental degradation. And where there are threats, serious threats, or irreversible damage, lack of scientific certainty should not be a reason used for postponing measures to prevent environmental degradation. So, to start with, hundreds of Zosimot residents had gathered on January 11, 2023, and they started singing a Garhwali composition by local artist Jagbir Singh. And they started praying Lord Badrinath to save their plight and not to make them leave their own town. And people from the nearby villages, they came in solidarity for them, and their tag is the one line tag was that we are people from the hills, how can we go and stay in the plains? Now it is not only it is feared that not only this town, that is Zosima town, but the entire settlement in and around the Himalayan region is in the risk or danger of being wiped out. It is a human tragedy and it is man-made. So how do we see the Zosimat calamity? So to understand this, we need to go back to a report that has been published 50 years ago by the Mishra Committee report. And that report suggests that Zosimat is sitting on sand and stone. It is not on a main rock. So therefore, it is not very convenient or a suitable place to come up for construction or a township. And if there are a lot of vibrations, uh, uh, caused by blasting or by heavy traffic, then this may lead to natural disequilibrium. And as a remedial measure, it suggested that there must have definitely construction cannot be stopped, development cannot be stopped, but there must be some restrictions on the heavy construction work. The word heavy is focused here. And construction should be allowed only after examining the soil bearing capacity. So we also need to understand the ecological uniqueness of the Himalayan region. So Josimat as a town was situated on the slopes of the Himalayas. And we know that the Himalayas are the world's youngest fragile mountains that were built on the moraine, that is physically very loose soil, and it is prone, since it is a seismic zone, it falls in seismic 4 or seismic 5, and therefore it is classified as one of the most environmental earthquake prone area. And as we know, Himalayas therefore have a much lesser bearing capacity when compared to the plains. Therefore, better planning and enforcement were essential to ensure that carrying capacity is not breached. But unfortunately, the institutions which were responsible to ensure this, like the town and country planning department or the environmental department, they all were proved inefficient because there were less staff, and the present staff who were present cannot put their voice to stop the environmental clearance. And there were many experts view to prove this. For example, the Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology report, geologist Nuveen Joyal report, or the Uttarakhand State Disaster Management Authority, they all have one findings in common. That is, they mainly blame the ill-planned construction in the town as a reason for the land subsidence, or and also the inappropriate or the inadequate drainage and the water disposal system. Now, if we look at if we try to understand the concept of sustainable development, we have the Brundtland Commission report that was in 1897, where the definition that was articulated was the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, if we look to the principle 1 of Stockholm Declaration 1972, it says that man has a fundamental right to freedom, equality, and adequate conditions of life. But interestingly, and it also the same principle talks of the man's responsibility to protect and improve the environment for present and future generation. But this same principle, one of the Stockholm Declaration, it also proclaimed both the aspects of man's environment and the natural environment, and that the man-made developments are also as essential for his own well-being and to the enjoyment of basic rights and even to the right to life itself. And therefore, when we look to the Supreme Court early discourse on sustainable development, it has developed a binary concept between ecology and development, and held that the industries are of much vital importance for the country's progress as they generate foreign exchange and also provides employment. So this social employability was a very important index for the concept of sustainable development. Now, the same sustainable development also brought out concepts like intergenerational equity and also the public trust doctrine. Now, if we look to the human development in and around Joshimath, we find the road projects and also the hydroelectrical power projects. The road projects such as the Sardham Yatra and the Helang Marwari bypass road. And to talk about the hydropower project, we have the Tapovan Vishnugar hydroelectric power project. So not only this, the state of Uttarakhand right now has 39 large and small hydroelectric power projects with an installed capacity of 36,000 megawatt. Additionally, there are 25 hydroelectric power projects worth 24,000 megawatt capacity under construction. So scientists have kept on warning that if you come up with this kind of hydroelectric power projects, then the question of but this kind of projects with questionable feasibility have continued to be constructed. Now, if we look to the judiciary was the main organ of the government for judicial reawakening for protecting the environment. But judiciary has been a failure on three important counts. First, after the 2013 horror of Kedarnath flooding, Supreme Court bench headed by Justice Radhakrishnan have taken a suo motu cognizance of the disaster and have expressed deep concern and by expressing deep concern that banks have stopped, giving clearance to any kind of hydroelectric power project. But that judgment was before his retirement. So when he retired, immediately there was a new bench by Justice Deepak Mishra, where the deep concern got converted to permitting those hydroelectric power projects, and thus it got the clearance. Secondly, the second count was in 2018, where a local petitioner filed a PIL against a blanket widening of Chardham Road to a double lane, and the PIL said that any further cutting of the mountain base for widening or tree falling would cause unprecedented activation of landslide, which could even block the existing highway, and thus it can be counterproductive. And therefore, taking cognizance of this PI, Justice Nariman Supreme Court bench in 2020 ordered an intermediate solution that the roads that are narrower intermediate width would be implemented, and thus lakhs of trees could be saved, forest cover, and drastically hill cutting can be reduced. But then this Sardham Yojana metamorphosed from a tourism point of view to a defense point of view. And thus it became a matter of safety. It became a matter of our own safety, our own country's safety. And thus the matter officially returned to a court even after reporting 200 landslides. And thus a new bench formed. The bench was headed by Justice Chandrachud, and that bench ordered the double lane road, notwithstanding the 200 landslides that were reported before him. The third count was Rishiganga flooding in 2021 that impacted the residents of Raini and Joshimath, who filed a PIL in Uttarakhand High Court praying for cancellation of Rishiganga and Tapovan Vishnugar hydroelectric power projects, along with the rehabilitation of the Raini village. Now, the court also rejected the petition, saying that there were no piece of evidence that this petition was filed by social activists, and thus the petitioner puppet in the hands of an unknown puppeteer. That means that his petition was dismissed. Not only his petition was dismissed, but he was also imposed a fine of rupee 10,000, and that was the boomerang. And now we have the Joshimath disaster, which experts largely attributed to hydroelectric power tunnel. Now, if we look to the environmental impact assessment, the environmental impact assessment are not protecting the environment. All around the world, what we see is a growing catalog of cases where environmental impact assessment are given the green light to development that should never see the light of the day. And the projects that are destroying irreplaceable habitat or threatening the last representative of endangered species. Now we have the 2020 environmental impact assessment, which replaced the 2006 environmental impact assessment draft. But now 2020 EIA notification, they have exempted certain projects from the public scrutiny, and certain projects do not require the mandatory environmental clearance. And it also introduced the concept of post-clearance compliance. And the draft notification, they also proposed to reduce the notice period of public hearing from 30 to 20 days, thereby completely weakening the public. The environmental impact assessment notification 2020 excluded the reporting of violence and non-compliance by the public. Instead, they have made the government more powerful because the government will take cognizance of reports only from the violator promoter, the government authority, appraisal committee or the regulatory authority. Therefore, the appraisal committee are an important link to get a clearance from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But what we have seen is there is an abdication of role by the expert appraisal committee. Now the expert appraisal committee is a basic link in the ultimate decision of the regulatory authority. So the primary role of the expert appraisal committee cannot be perfunctory or it cannot be sketchy. It has to read the report. They have to take cognizance of many things. But what is visible is there is non-application of mind by expert appraisal committee, and relevant materials get excluded from the consideration, and extraneous circumstances were borne in mind. Now, before I conclude my paper, I would like to go back to the case of N.D. Jayal and another versus Union of India, where a writ petition was filed under Article 32 of the Constitution of India with respect to Tehri dam safety. Now, the project aroused that environmental clearance was not carried out in pari passu with the construction of the dam, and therefore the constructions should be stopped. And the majority decided that the case should be transferred from the Supreme Court to the High Court of Uttarakhand. But the matter, before it is transferred to the High Court of Uttarakhand, Supreme Court held that there cannot be any kind of judicial review on the matter of policy decisions taken by the government regarding the rehabilitation and the safety test. And the Supreme Court held that when there are two options available, it is not the court which should not re-examine or interfere in the matter by way of an appeal. Therefore, the High Court of Uttarakhand became furious, and sarcastically they gave the judgment having three important connotations. One, the court briefly held that the government feels that technology can counterbalance the sacrifice of one ecosystem with another by recreating another system, and that ecosystems are fungible, and that there are no concept of irreversible environmental damage. So while concluding, it was a sarcasm. So government is still lost in the 1980s and 1990s kind of judicial reawakening. So in my conclusion, what I found is that the environmental duty of the state and the environmental duty of the citizen, they cannot stand on the same footing. So the asymmetry of one-sided stress on rights should be rectified. And judiciary have of course come to always spoken about the delicate balance between the ecological impact and the necessity for development. But what about the balance? It cannot create development at the cost of human life. And the environmental impact assessment cannot be only one mechanism to look after the environment. Various state pollution control board do not do their sincere work. So my study have found that the state control pollution board, people there, the officers there, do not possess the attributes of capable of and good governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, for your excellent presentation. I think next presentation can be presented through PowerPoint. Is it possible? Huh? So, next paper presentation will be presented by Purnali Devi and Ananya Kaisap. I would like to request them to hand over your pen drive. So I would like to request Bornali Devi and Ananya Kashyap. Their presentation will be on climate justice in the novel Staying Alive, a study of Vandana Shiva's environmental discourse.
A very good afternoon to everyone, to all the dignitaries present here. At first, we would like to thank the coordinator of this big festival in Bologna University. We are very pleased to be here today. We are representing Cotton University, myself Barnali Devi and my fellow mate Ananya Kashyap. So the title of our presentation is on climate justice in the novel Staying Alive, a study of Vandana Shiva's environmental discourse. Climate justice is a concept that recognizes the unequal distribution of the impacts of climate change. Ethically and morally, climate justice is as important as human rights. Climate justice calls for a transition to a more sustainable and equitable future. Climate justice requires acknowledging the historical context and legacy of environmental degradation. It recognizes the role of systematic factors such as colonialism, globalization, and environmental racism in perpetuating environmental injustice. So now, when there is a climate change, only 1% of the total population they do not get it. They do not feel the pain. Okay. At first, we will discuss the climate justice. Then we will go to the explanation which is given by Vandana Shiva in her novel. Then we will go to the methodology part. The methodology which is that is a theory of justice by John Rawls. And then we will describe Shiva's work. Then we will go to the findings of the study and conclusion. It has been seen that 1% of the total population in the world is more responsible for this autocracy, climate degradation. Climate justice also says that everyone has equal opportunity to everything. Climate justice also recognizes the most vulnerable communities who unfortunately bear the cost of climate change. Overall, we can say that climate justice is an important lens to understand the present society and to find out some good actions which will be which will determine our future. Okay, let's come to the literature review. Now, we have gone through the novel Staying Alive, Women, Ecology and Survival in India by Vandana Shiva. She is a scientist, basically she's a scientist, environmentalist, eco-feminist from India. Uh, Here she describes her experiences from her life. We try to address some problems with solutions. So to justify these solutions, we have used the methodology, the theory of justice by John Rawls. In this theory, Rawls attempts to provide a moral theory alternative to utilitarianism and that addresses the problems of distributive justice. Basically, okay, so what is utilitarianism? It is an ethical theory that determines right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. For example, suppose I'm wearing a Adidas pant or a Nike shoes or I'm carrying a bag, Zara, okay, the brand is Zara, okay, whatever. So we never know from where these products coming out. So basically the third world countries such as Indonesia, Morocco, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. So what is happening? They are behind these things. They are the laborers, okay, behind these brands. Even if it's written like it is, the product is from European countries or the first world countries, the laborers are from third world countries. So that is utilitarianism. So we prefer something. We never think of the evil side before using such thing or such products. Utilitarianism is saying that the action towards justice should be achieved by greatest number of people. Okay. Then Rawls saying the basic rights should be given to the marginalized section of the society as well. Now, findings of the study will be discussed by my fellow mate Ananya.
Very good afternoon to everyone. So I am Ananya from Cotton University. I am directly going to the findings of the study. So the novel exposes the ways in which climate change existing social and economic inequalities, leading to poverty, food insecurity, and losses of livelihoods. Now there is one probable solution is to give importance to empowering women from the marginalized communities. So the novel highlights the role of women as the key agents of change in climate crisis. Vulnerability of marginalized communities reflect women, indigenous communities, women of colors, disadvantaged groups. These communities are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. The novel says that the intersection of social and economic inequalities. So the conclusion part will be discussed by Bernadette.
Women in Northeast India face multiple forms of marginalization and exclusion, including gender, ethnic, and class based discrimination. One of the key issues faced by women in Northeast India is lack of decision making power. Throughout the book, the author provides a nuanced and intersectional analysis of the ways in which gender, race, and class shape experiences of environmental degradation and access to resources. The book presents a compelling case for the need to shift towards a new development model that prioritizes sustainability, equity, and social justice. The author bridges coalition across social movements, environmental movements, women's rights, and indigenous rights movements in order to address the interconnected and interrelated nature of environmental and social issues. So, what's happened? Vandana Shiva in her novels, she has not described about the impact of uh, climate change in Northeast India, basically women. So, uh, but we try to connect Northeast women from Northeast India with her novel that say, uh, in some way women from Northeast India they are much empowered from in compared to the other states or other states in India. Basically, Shiva is telling about empowering women. Women as the key agents of the society. If we don't empower women uh, equally, so there will be no sustainability in climate crisis. Today, we are in a situation that we have forgotten that we are species. We are species. We have forgotten that we are humans. We are so much urbanized. We are industrialized. We have forgotten that we are also a species. After five, if we continue with such doing all this, all this, if we continue as such, what will happen after 50,000 years? What will happen? There will be no species called humans. There will be aliens on Earth. So, for to justify our paper, we have come with some motto which should be remembered by everyone, and we should go to the field and work on it. Act on climate for the future we believe in. So, if we want to see the next generation, the upcoming generation, to have a good life, to have a better position in their life, we have to work right now. There is no time left. We should work now. No planet B. So this is Earth. There is no planet B. Fight for climate. We have to fight for climate equity. This is the Earth. We stay here. There is no planet B for us. So if we don't take care of our planet Earth, there is no future for the other generations. The climate is changing, but so are we. We need to change ourselves with the climate. We should take our hands. We should we should do movements. We should do awareness. We should go to the field. We should work. We should plant. We should do all the way we can. So that we can protect our environment. Climate justice is not a choice; it's a necessity. Stand up for climate justice because the earth needs you. Mother Nature, what is happening now is we're doing things, evil deeds to the Mother Nature. Actually, she is very angry right now. So if we don't take care of our environment, there will be storms. There can be many calamities which can come to which will be there in our near future. So there are some references here. This is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bonali and Ananya, for your important presentation. At the same time, I would like to congratulate all the participants for their valuable presentation and very important topics for this session. And though this technical session is over, at the same time, I would like to request all of you to present for another few minutes because my presentation is yet to be presented in front of you with my innovation. So it will be very interesting, and I think it will help our day-to-day activities also. I am a man of practice. I have invented one waste simulator through which we can convert our daily generated biodegradable solid waste to organic manure and pest repellent on daily basis. Though I am residing in Guwahati city for your kind information, I never purchase any vegetables, even I never purchase tea, I never purchase even fish in my rooftop. Is organic pond, organic vegetable gardens, everything in my home. So I believe that I will be benefited from my presentation.
I'll do that.
I thank Dr. Amarjyoti Kashyap for chairing the session. I thank all the participants for their presentation. Now I want to make an announcement here. We are going to award prize for the best paper. We'll decide that by the end of the session, and we'll declare the name of the paper which we consider to be the best one. Until then, I request the participants to go and take their seats. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Now, we'll be having the invited talk by Amarjyoti Kashyap, which was postponed till the end of the session because of this technical glitch. I would request Dr. Kashyap to come and deliver his talk.
টেকনিকেল প্ৰব্লেম হৈ নাজানে কাৰণে কমপ্লেইন দিব
এইটো কি হ'ল গুচি গ'ল চিষ্টেম অফ কৰিছে আপোনাৰ মানুহ দিছে কণ্টিনিউ চেঞ্জ এনেকে কৰিলে আমাৰ কেনেকে হ'ব ৰাতিপুৱাৰ পৰা একদম গণ্ডগোল কৰি দিছে যে কোনো কৰা নাই কিবা নিজে মানুহজন থাকিব লাগে ন কণ্টিনিউ চেঞ্জ কৰিব লাগে राती कितना जाएगा काली काली काम मैंने बेलिक बेलिक बिजनेस काम मोर बिजनेस काम आई को भी itu kan teman আহিব দিয়া কৰি দিয়া আছে
So, dear friends, actually due to lot of anomalies from this computer section, it is becoming not possible to highlight as per the required process. So anyway, so this video film was taken by the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India, I received one the best innovation award on water and sanitation segment in on the Millennium Managed Innovation Award in 2017 from the then Honorable Science and Technology Minister Dr. Harshvardhan. In that session, out of the 100 innovation for you will be glad that out of the 100 innovation of throughout the India under the water and sanitation segment, only one innovation was selected for the award, and I received that award with 30 lakhs rupees. So for this Millennium Alliance Innovation Award, I think nobody is yet received that award from the Northeastern region. So I am the proud member of very proud citizen of Northeastern region having that awards. So through that innovation, actually it was highlighted how waste management can have the convergence with the organic farming. I have developed a convergence between the waste management and organic farming. For your kind information, whole world is now concerned about the waste management and organic farming parallelly, simultaneously. But everybody is working, the person who is working on solid waste management, he is not having the experiences of organic farming and he is not doing any activities of organic farming. The person who is involved on organic farming, he is not doing any activities of waste management and he does not have any experiences on waste management. But through my innovation, now it is possible to have a convergence between the waste management and organic farming, and we can go together the waste management and organic farming. So this innovation is very simple. All the daily generated biodegradable solid waste can be disposed inside a waste assimilator. This waste assimilator, you would like to see the practical of this practice, you may able to see in IS Officer Colony Guwahati and in Commerce College Guwahati and so many of residences in Guwahati city and in Jokhalabandha, in Gwalpara, in Palasbari, in Chandrapur. There are so many villages are there who are now doing the waste management and organic farming. So this was the picture of the Cotton University. I think the present Cotton University. This was when the Cotton University was not declared at that time. So it was Cotton College. In NAG accreditation, they received the A double plus. The one of the component was this my innovation. So that NAG team was also very much appreciated to this my innovation. So I think it will not be possible to understand this picture. So please highlight my presentation. Please go. You close stop this and show the presentation. So decentralized waste management. Everybody know about the waste management. We are doing some waste management activities. My concept is decentralized waste management. Our waste should be managed at our residence itself if possible. And for your kind information, out of the total waste, more than 60% household waste is the organic biodegradable. So if we can able to manage our more than 60% waste at our the entire burden of waste will be minimized and accordingly our entire problem can be solved. So is the decentralized solid waste management and organic farming in every household to mitigate climate change by playing individual role for sustainable future. We are speaking about the climate change mitigation, but we need to have our own participation to mitigate the climate change. The only one way is that is waste management and organic farming or plantation, through which we can mitigate the climate change. So I have now introduced waste management and organic farming in every household, every rooftop, and even now introduce the domestic organic green tea gardening in household level at household level, through which we are now planting lot of tea plantation in every residences, and accordingly climate change can be mitigated. So next, please. So see the present situation of solid waste management. This is the picture of Guwahati, not only in Guwahati, I think in Kokrajhar it is also common. I believe it. The garbage is collected from household and from the sources, and accordingly it is disposed in the landfill. And ultimately, we are developing lot of toxic land and wasteland day by day. So, if this process is continued, then in near future there will be no landfill for the dumping of garbage. Our children have to carry their garbage on their head. There will be no any way. So that is why our attention on solid waste management should be proper and scientific so that we can solve these problems. Next, please. So we are all busy on Swachh Bharat mission. These are the photogenic session. We sweep even the clean road and take and highlight to the newspaper and other media. So this is the process of the Swachh Bharat. Sweeping is a process of shifting of garbage from one place to another. So sweeping cannot assist Swachh Bharat. So I request all of you not do this type of activity. Yes, this can be introduced as a symbol. Symbol we can as a symbolic activity we can do, but it is a regular practice nowadays. In every World Environment Day, in every any festivals, we used to do these activities. So I request all of you not to practice these activities. Next, please. So we have only one art. Our intention is that to save our resources. Solid waste management nowadays, for your kind information, we are having one or two mobile phones is common in every household. 2, 3, we even sense the mobile phone. Can you believe that our future generation will not be able to use these mobile phones? Our future generation will not be able to use laptops and other scientific devices that we are now using. Why? Can you answer it? Why? Why our future generation? Because scientific development is going more. Then why our future generation will not be able to use mobile phones? Because the necessary materials which needs to develop a mobile phone will not be available after few years. So that is why we need to manage solid waste. In earlier time, there was a tendency of every family that we have 10, 15 children even. মই অসমীয়াতে কৈছো মোৰ মামা ককাৰ 17জন ভাই ভনীয়েক আছিলে অকল মামা ককা বাচি থাকিলে 16জন মৰি থাকিলে এতিয়া আমাৰ এজন বা দুজন ল'ৰা ছোৱালী গতিকে আমি যদি ভালমতে জীয়াই থাকিবলৈ হয় আমাৰ বেমাৰ হ'ব নালাগে we need to manage solid waste to reduce the disease. So these are the reasons why we should manage solid waste. Otherwise our future generation is going in an uncertain way. Next please. So basic objective of this my activities is that ever since the ill effects of global warming, excessive deforestation and widespread pollution, indiscriminate dumping of solid waste, inorganic farming and use of chemical pesticides have started taking a toll on our environment, where there is an urgent need for developing organic sustainable means for our better survival. This is why growing and recycling biodegradable solid waste should be our top priority by playing individual role for a sustainable future. So I request all of you to think personally and act locally. Next, please. So considering the necessity, I have invented waste assimilator. So the beauty of this innovation is that we can dispose our biodegradable waste on daily basis. And we are getting the immediate benefits is that we are getting the microbial waste after 2-3 days of use on regular basis. After 25 days, we are getting the vermi waste, and finally after 120 days, we are getting the vermicompost. So everybody is now speaking about the organic farming. My dear friends, in entire world, out of the total agricultural land, only 1.2% agricultural land is organic. Why? Somebody may speak that this is it can be it should be more and more. In our India, out of the total agricultural land, the organic cultivation land is only 2%. because due to the lack of organic manure and biogas repellent, some of our friends use cow dung and vermicompost. At the same time, for pest resistance, they compulsively use chemical pesticides. Once we use the chemical pesticide, the entire organic farming concept is vanished. So that is why we need more and more organic manure and pest repellent, which is not available in the world at the present scenario. At the same time, we regularly waste our huge biodegradable waste day by day. So my intention is to use entire biodegradable solid waste to utilize and to convert as organic manure and pest repellent on daily basis, and out of that resources we can be able to practice organic farming in every household. Next, please. Next. So this is the patented technology, this waste assimilator I have invented. Next, please. So the invention of waste assimilator, the beauty and basic principle is use of daily generated biodegradable solid waste to practice organic farming in every household and community. The inputs we can use all the biodegradable solid waste, including kitchen waste, fruit and vegetable waste, meat and fish waste, agricultural waste, garden waste, forest waste, leaf litters, aquatic plant waste, and cattle dung, etc. So we have two waste assimilator. One is domestic and another one is community. And advantage is that very simple to use. We can dispose our biodegradable waste on daily basis, and it maintains a odor-free and hygienic environment. And output we are getting microbial wash from second days of use, vermi wash from 25 days till the assimilation process continues, and finally vermicompost. So this is the best way, and a very simple technology is there. Only aerobic microbial digestion and art from assimilation technology is there only. Next, please. So waste assimilator has a slow based aeration layer, composting bed, ventilation and outlet. Very simple technique. Capacity of domestic waste assimilator, we can dispose daily 3 kg of biodegradable waste inside the domestic waste assimilator, and inside the community waste assimilator we can dispose 100 kg of biodegradable solid. You will be feeling glad. The best practice of Swachh Bharat mission is this. I have received so many of awards. Unfortunately, we are lagging behind of the Swachh Bharat mission activities. I don't know why. The following are the plant nutrients produced from the waste assimilator. We are getting the macronutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, and micronutrients, amino acid, enzymes, different hormones, vitamins, along with many useful. There are so many of students here, so that is why I would like to address about the students also. Your friends, can you answer that? What are the major nutrients of we are human body, we human beings are consumed? What are the major nutrients? Carbohydrate, protein, and fats. At the same time, the major nutrients of the plants are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. The very beauty of the nature is that we animals, we consume carbohydrate, protein, and fats from the plants, that is producer, and our excreta is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash that is consumed by the producer plants, and the food chain is consumed. The beauty of the nature is like that. Without giving any additives, a grass inland ecosystem can survive, a pond ecosystem can survive. This is the main basics of science. Next, please. So, novelty of domestic waste assimilator. This is my top is the rooftop garden of in my residence. The procedure is that dispose of biodegradable solid waste on daily basis, spray water approximate 100 ml over the waste on daily basis, collect the microbial wash after 2-3 days on daily basis, add outcome after 5 days of use, collect and use microbial wash on daily basis after the usage should be continued, collect microbial wash and vermi wash both after 25 days on daily basis. Raise the first waste assimilator, we have to give the raised
the first waste assimilator, and after 90 days, and then we use the second assimilator. We should use the second assimilator and continue the process. Finally, collect the vermicompost from the first assimilator as the end product after 120 days, and rotate the process. Once the first one is get filled, then we should use the next one, and it should be rotated. Next, please. This is the novelty of the community waste assimilator. Dear friends, this is the picture of the IS officer colony of Guwahati. So the residents, the adjacent of this waste assimilator is the residences of the additional chief secretaries. 2 numbers of chief secretaries are here. So it is very adjacent. Can you imagine that we dispose 100 kg of biodegradable solid waste there? There is no smell in a scientific way. We are getting the liquid nutrients on daily basis. All the IS officers, they are using this for their garden. And we are developing this garden for the nutrients of this waste assimilator. So this is the concept. We should use our biodegradable waste. Some of my friends used to speak that the organic waste, biodegradable waste, where there in some components are inorganic, some pesticides are there in our vegetables, then how you can consider these final products are organic? Then simple answer is that we, even human beings and even the cow, used to consume the whatever we are consume. Some of the pesticides are there, some of the inorganic materials are there. We are consumed sometimes, but our excreta is organic. Our body consume all the harmful component. That is why we are suffering from diseases. If we consume any toxic products, then our body consumes it, and we are suffering from diseases. But our excreta is organic. Although some parts may be very negligible, parts may be inorganic, but as a whole, entire our excreta is organic. Next, please. This is the business model. The cost of the 2S assimilator is the 5,000, 1 unit cost, 2 numbers, and the cost of the community waste assimilator is 4,50,000. But beauty is that we are getting 21,000 per annum out of the waste assimilators of domestic waste assimilator, and 10,50,000 per annum out of the community waste assimilator directly from the organic manure and waste repellent. So this is the beauty of the cost effective analysis. Next, please. So comparative advantages of the waste assimilator. There are so many devices are there available in the market for producing compost, vermicompost like that. But the advantages of this waste assimilator is that simple technology, natural aerobic microbial digestion and assimilation by the outcome, does not require any additives like water-soaking materials and microbes. No shredding, no rotation of the waste is required. Produces microbial wash from 2 to 3 days of use. Farming wash from 25 days till the assimilation process continues. And finally, vermicompost after 1 day. It needs very little space, 1.5 square feet for the domestic waste assimilator and 165 square feet for the community waste assimilator, and zero maintenance cost, long lasting, concrete, environment friendly device. Next, please. So we have already introduced the waste assimilator in different areas, and waste assimilator, as I have already mentioned, waste assimilator has developed a convergence between the waste management and organic farming. Waste assimilator is now introduced in Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and West Bengal. In Coachbihar, Falakata, the BSF campuses, all the BSF campuses, they are having this waste assimilator, and they are working very beautiful activities are going on there. And accordingly, we introduced 12,052 households, among 12,052 households for household level waste management and organic farming. And on the other hand, we have introduced 21 numbers community waste assimilator for the community or large scale biodegradable solid waste management, and covering altogether 150,000 population. Next, please. So this is the activities of IS officer colony Guwahati. The segregation at source, and accordingly we have also installed the domestic waste simulator in their campus. Next, please.
This is the activities of Jakala Bandha on way to Kaziranga National Park. Next, please. This is the activities of Palasbari, where I have introduced from the fund that I received from the Millennium Alliance Innovation Award in Palasbari area. Next, this is the Katimara village of Chandrapur near to Guwahati city. Next, this is the activities of Kajari Saki under the Chandrapur block of near to Guwahati city. Next, this is the Panbari village of Chandrapur. I have adopted this village as a organic village. In every household, they are having now tea plantation, and they are now producing organic green tea and orthodox tea at their household without having any machineries. A very simple technology I have developed, and they are now producing. And per kg of this tea is 5,000 kg, and it is open for you. If you wanted to purchase this beautiful tea, I can give you the contact, and you can purchase it. Tea, I always consume tea that because there are so many of the you know that the anti-carcinogenic properties are there, and चाय पीने से कैंसर बीमार नहीं होता है, चाय पीने से हार्ट अटैक नहीं होता है, चाय पीने से शुगर प्रॉब्लम नहीं होता है. So these are some beautiful these benefits are there. So that is why I used to consume daily at least 10 cups of tea. So next please. কেঞ্চাৰ বেমাৰত মৰিবলৈ মন নাই দেই, মই চেষ্টা কৰোঁ, ক'ব নোৱাৰো ভাগ্যত কি আছে, কিন্তু কেঞ্চাৰ বেমাৰ ভগৱানৰ ওচৰত প্ৰাৰ্থনা, কেঞ্চাৰ বেমাৰত যাতে